probably noticed in my previous video that I had the driver's seat installed in the car, even though I never showed you how I finished it. And that's because I had to come out a little bit out of sequence with the brakes and combine everything that happened with the brakes in one video, even though it didn't happen all at the same time. So now I'm coming back to the seat and I'm showing you here how I finished it. This is a piece of wiggle board that I'm installing there. That's a type of wood that you can bend easily. And this wiggle board is needed there so I can staple the ends of the vinyl when I upholster the seat. I'm using most of the old materials. And now the bottom end of this vinyl staples to the wiggle board that I just mentioned. Then I continued with the base of the seat. I used stream glue to glue the vinyl and pieces of foam. I did that for both sides. I tried to upholster it exactly the same way as it was before because I really liked the shape and it was really nice and soft. So I used exactly the same technique. I didn't change anything. And this was a tricky part because it was very tight, but this is how it needed to be. It needed to be tight, so it is nice and tight. I used some hog rings to hold the vinyl to the wire basket, let's say, underneath. These are the original hog rings from 50 years ago. Then I installed the rails so I can slide back and forth. And the last thing was this clip that prevents it from opening. I installed the base and I tested it. Believe it or not, it's really soft and comfortable. The other thing I didn't show you was how I refurbished the steering column. First, of course, I had to take it apart because I wanted to clean all the parts and paint them. Also, the lever for the signal light switch was broken, and my boss Jake gave me another one, so I had to replace it. But first of all, because Jake wasn't sure if it was working, I had to clean it and check it to make sure it was a good one. Then I stripped everything else from the steering column and cleaned all the old paint and the rust. Next I applied 2 coats of primer, and some of the parts I painted black, some of them I painted red. While the paint was drying, I did some work on the engine. I installed a new temperature sensor, because the old one looked really bad, so I wasn't sure if it was working, but I just decided to change it. I also installed new ignition coil. And when the paint on the steering column was dry, I assembled and installed it. And then I drove the car, or at least I pretended to. So now that I have all the 3 pedals and a steering wheel, what else do I need? Of course I need to start the engine, because I can't wait to drive the car. So I started topping up the oil. Installing all the hoses for the coolant. And filling up the coolant system. At the end I needed some wiring.
Let's see if it is gonna crank. Wow, it does. Okay. So next we need to put power to the ignition, and we'll try to start the engine. And let's try. One of the carbs is overfloating. It's missing the needle. Oh my god. It's missing the needle. Okay, so found another needle. I don't know how come. When I rebuilt, when I cleaned the carbs, probably I lost the needle and I didn't even notice. But anyways, now I found another needle from another carb that I have, and now we're gonna do a second try.
And this is where the starter motor gave up. Well, that was expected based on the noise it was making. And now I tried to spin it manually, but it was tight, really seized. So I had to take it out and try and seize it.
I took the starter motor out and it's almost impossible. It was very hard to turn. So I have to take it apart and see if there are bushings there or what is it there.
I had to pull all the 4 brushes out so I can remove the armature from the stator. Then I sprayed a little bit of WD-40 on the bushing and I was able to pull it out.
Yeah, it's a little rough.
Unfortunately, there wasn't much I could do there because the bushing was damaged real bad. So I just sprayed some WD-40 and put it back together temporarily, and I will have to buy another starter. Parts keep adding all the time.
Okay, let's test it. So I have the ground here, the positive, ground. Yes. Done. One more attempt. Let's see now what's gonna happen. So ignition.
Yeah, I definitely need a new starter. Anyways, I kept trying for maybe 10 more minutes. The starter motor became so hot that I couldn't even touch it, so I just gave up for that night and decided to ask Carlos to help me the day after. Well, the day after, Carlos stayed with me after hours for half an hour. He couldn't spend more, but he cleaned the spark plugs and he noticed that one of the carbs was dry. There was absolutely no gas coming to it, so he gave me some directions, and after he left I started working on the car myself. So I checked the level on the float of this carb, and it appeared that even when the float was on the bottom of the canister, the needle was still closing the valve, so it was really totally dry. So I fixed that, and I poured some gas in the carb directly, and I tried to start the car again. Finally started, unfortunately with some bad misfire, but this is something that I was gonna worry later about. I wanted to drive the car right now. door latches were not mounted yet, so I just strapped the doors one to each other so they don't open while I was driving. That's why I had to jump over. I fixed the windshield so it doesn't come out somewhere on the way. And there we go. Let's try it. Even with this nasty misfire, it was a great pleasure to drive the car again, especially now that it has all the 3 pedals functional. Yeah, it needs tune up, and I'm gonna wait for Carlos to do that for me because he proved that he is very good in that. He fixed one TR6 that we had in the shop and my Bose's TR4. He tuned up the carbs so good that these were like different cars after he touched them. So I'm gonna wait for him whenever he's available. He's gonna do that for me, and in the meantime I'm gonna do other things, but now I'm really happy that I drove the car again. The last time I drove it, it was December 13th, 2015, and now it's July, what, 8th, 9th, I don't know, and so it's been 7 months since I drove it last, and it looks amazing on the road. I'm really happy about it.